Friedrich Nietzsche. A name that often echoes through philosophy videos, college debates, and countless internet quotes. Yet few people truly understand what Nietzsche was really saying. Some think he was an atheist prophet, others believe he was a madman who hated religion. Some even call him the philosopher who killed God. But who was Nietzsche, really? What did he actually mean when he said, "God is dead"? And why do his ideas still make so much sense today, in a world that seems more uncertain than ever? Let's strip away the confusion and explore Nietzsche in simple human terms. No academic jargon, no fancy words. Just the man, his ideas, and what he really meant. Nietzsche lived in the 19th century, a time when religion still had a strong grip on European life. But something was changing. Science was advancing. People were questioning long-held beliefs. The world was becoming more industrial, more rational, and less spiritual. Nietzsche saw this and realized something enormous was happening. Humanity was outgrowing its old gods. When he said, "God is dead," he wasn't celebrating. He was diagnosing a crisis. He didn't mean that a literal God had died somewhere in heaven. He meant that belief in God, the moral structure that gave meaning to people's lives for centuries, was collapsing. The foundation of Western morality, the idea that good and evil come from a divine source, was breaking apart. Science had explained the universe without needing divine intervention. People no longer needed religion to explain thunder or disease. But Nietzsche saw that removing God also removed the meaning and purpose that religion had provided. He was warning us. Without that shared belief system, what would happen to humanity? If there was no higher authority telling us what's right or wrong, then what is right or wrong? Nietzsche feared that people would fall into nihilism, the belief that nothing has meaning, that life itself is pointless. And he wasn't wrong. You can see traces of that everywhere today. People feeling lost, disconnected, anxious, unsure of what matters anymore. Nietzsche predicted that centuries ago. But Nietzsche didn't stop there. He wasn't content to say, "God is dead and everything is meaningless." Instead, he asked, "Now that God is gone, what can we create in his place?" He wanted humanity to take responsibility for its own values, to stop relying on external authority and start building meaning from within. He believed that this was the only way to move beyond nihilism, to become what he called the Übermensch, or the Overman. A person who creates their own morality and purpose without needing divine permission. Now, people often misunderstand the Übermensch. They imagine it as some kind of superhuman, a superior race or a political ideal. But Nietzsche didn't mean that at all. The Übermensch wasn't about power over others. It was about power over oneself. It was about transcending weakness, excuses, and dependence on others to tell us what's right. The Übermensch is someone who says, "Even if life has no given meaning, I will give it meaning." In simple terms, it's about becoming the author of your own life story. Think about it this way. Most people live by the rules of society, religion, or culture without questioning them. Nietzsche called these the values of the herd. The herd follows the crowd. It seeks comfort, security, and approval. But the overman stands apart. He questions everything. He creates his own standards. He doesn't follow the herd's morality because he knows morality isn't universal. It is something humans invented. And if we invented it, we can reinvent it. This idea is deeply relevant today. We live in a world flooded with opinions, algorithms, and trends telling us what to think, what to like, how to behave. Nietzsche would look at social media and say, "This is the new herd." Everyone shouting their beliefs, chasing validation, copying each other's moral outrage. But the Nietzschean approach would be to step back and ask, do I actually believe this, or am I just echoing what others say? For Nietzsche, true strength is thinking independently, even when it's uncomfortable. Nietzsche also talked about something he called slave morality and master morality. Now, these terms sound harsh, but they're not about social class. They're about mindsets. Slave morality, he said, was born from weakness, from people who felt powerless and needed to label their own suffering as virtue. For example, they called humility, obedience, and patience good, while strength, pride, and ambition were labeled evil. In contrast, master morality came from people who were strong, confident, and creative. Those who saw power, courage, and self-determination as virtues. Nietzsche wasn't saying one group should dominate another. He was saying that society often rewards weakness and punishes strength, and that we've inherited moral values designed to keep people docile. He wanted us to re-examine those values. Are they helping us grow, or are they holding us back? Let's take a real-life example. Imagine someone who dreams of being an artist but doesn't pursue it because people tell them it as impractical. Society rewards stability, not risk. But Nietzsche would say that listening to the herd kills the creative spirit. The Overmen would ignore that fear and create anyway, because meaning comes from creation, not from approval. Nietzsche also introduced the idea of eternal recurrence. It's one of his most thought-provoking concepts. He asks, what if you had to live your life over and over again, exactly the same way for eternity? Every joy, every pain, every regret, repeated endlessly. How would that make you feel? Most people would find that terrifying. But Nietzsche says, live in such a way that you could embrace that idea, that you could say yes to your life, every detail of it, forever. It's a mental test, a way to measure how authentically you're living. If you wouldn't want to live your life again, maybe you're not truly living by your own values. Maybe you're living by someone else's. He also criticized modern comfort. Nietzsche saw that people crave safety, predictability, and convenience, but he thought that these things make us weak. He admired struggle, hardship, and pain, because they make us stronger and more aware of ourselves. He said, one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. That means that out of our internal conflicts and pain, beauty can emerge. Growth doesn't come from avoiding difficulty. It comes from facing it. Today, we're told to seek happiness above all else. Nietzsche would call that a mistake. He didn't believe happiness was the goal of life. For him, the goal was greatness. Not in a shallow sense, but in the sense of fulfilling your highest potential. Happiness, he said, often follows as a byproduct of pursuing something meaningful, not as the main goal. Another big part of Nietzsche's philosophy is his rejection of absolute truth. He believed that all knowledge is shaped by perspective. There is no single truth out there waiting to be discovered, only different interpretations. This idea sounds radical, but think about it. Every culture, every religion, every ideology claims to have the truth, yet they all contradict each other. Nietzsche saw truth as something humans create, not something that exists independently. He wanted people to question their assumptions, to realize that what we call truth often reflects our desires, fears, and social conditioning. It's uncomfortable, but freeing. Because once you see that truths are made, not given, you can choose which ones to live by. Nietzsche's ideas were later distorted by others, especially the Nazis, who twisted his words to justify their ideology. Nietzsche himself despised nationalism, racism, and herd thinking. He wanted individuals to rise above these collective delusions, not feed them. It's ironic that his name was later associated with exactly what he stood against. In the end, Nietzsche wasn't telling people to abandon morality or embrace chaos. He was telling us to grow up, to stop relying on external authorities, whether gods, governments, or traditions, to tell us who we are, to recognize that life doesn't come with built-in meaning, and that this isn't a tragedy, but a chance to create, to define, to live deliberately. He once wrote, "Become who you are." That simple line captures his entire philosophy. Don't imitate others. Don't live by inherited beliefs. Don't look for meaning somewhere else. Create it right here through your actions, your passions, your struggles. So when people say Nietzsche was a nihilist, they're only half right. He saw nihilism coming, but he didn't surrender to it. He wanted to move beyond it, to a place where we can live meaningfully, even in a godless universe. He didn't give us answers. He gave us the tools to find our own. In a world where people still chase external approval, where we cling to ideologies for comfort, Nietzsche's challenge remains as relevant as ever. Dare to think for yourself, even if it isolates you. Dare to live without needing cosmic permission. Dare to create value in a meaningless world. Maybe that's what Nietzsche really meant. Not that God is dead, but that we are now free. Free to build, to fail, to rise, to define what it means to be human. And that freedom, terrifying as it may be, might just be the beginning of something divine.